We're here because we want to make sure that we touch bases with one of our best and most important allies, period, but specifically in the Indo-Pacific. We had the opportunity to go to some of the Indo-Pacific islands, Palau and Papua New Guinea, and then ending up here in Australia, so that we can make sure that the relationships that we have, we continue to work together, whether it's dealing with the malign interests of Russia and their invasion in Ukraine, or climate change, or the PRC. And so it's just to make sure that our friends in Australia and in the Indo-Pacific know that the United States values our partnership, and we will show up, and we're going to be there and standing together side by side.
Why is Australia important to the US? I see the issues that you have been talking about while you've been travelling around. Does it matter to Americans, to the Senate, to the Congress, what Australia does?
Absolutely, it does. And one of the things you mentioned, our elections are coming up, that I think is clear, because we're traveling with a bipartisan delegation. Democrats and Republicans understand the significance and the importance of Australia. You know, no matter where I travel in the world, if you're talking militarily, I see American soldiers and I see Australian soldiers working collectively for our individual and joint national security purposes. When you're talking about climate change, we know how significant and important the Indo-Pacific is, and their future. And we need to do these things together. You talk about, again, the China, who Australia has had to deal with for a long, long time. The best way to deal with it is collectively together. And so I think that the people of the United States, and definitively the Congress of the United States, understands that significance and importance, which is why my delegation is here now, and we've seen other delegations come, and you'll see more, because the United States has to show up and continue our partnership with Australia.
Congressman, you mentioned China, and you were part of the visit to Taiwan, weren't you, with Nancy Pelosi? Did that make the situation worse ultimately?
No, I don't think so. I think it shows that we are going to stand with our Indo-Pacific allies. You know, when we went there, we were not going to allow the PRC to dictate to us what to do and what not to do. We still expressed the status quo, of which we had basically agreement for a long period of time, and it continues. So, and what that meant was, as I said, we're showing up, because not only did we visit Taiwan, we went to Malaysia, we went to South Korea, we went to Japan, we went to Singapore. It is that we are standing with our democratic and democracies, because we share the same values. And that means that we've got to show up, stand up, and stay together in that regard. So it was important.
Some in China see it as provocative that America does this, and we've got this situation where 6 B-52 bombers could be stationed in the north of Australia. The Chinese commentary on that is that it causes regional instability and could trigger an arms race. Are you, in your position, satisfied with how Australia deals with those situations in China?
We've had this, and we've been doing drills forever. So this is nothing new. Is this China trying to drum something up? We continue to make sure that what our agreement with Australia is for the security, the national security of both of our countries. So we're not going to allow China to dictate or change what we have been doing for a long period of time. So this is nothing really new. This is just, again, saying that our partnerships is going to stay together. We're not going to be divided. China can't divide us. Russia can't divide us. We are locked in together. We are partners.
I know you're rushing back to the United States because, as we mentioned, it is the midterms. How are you looking at those with the president's approval rating so low at the moment, the Republicans seemingly, in grassroots level at least, riding high? How are you looking at the midterm?
Well, I'm looking at it, it's going to be a close election. There's no question about that. I think that we'll be able to maintain and can maintain the majority in a very close election. There's a lot of issues that are taking place all over the world. When we look at, because we're coming out of the greatest pandemic that we've had in the United States or around the world for at least over 100 years or so. And so that caused some damage to the economy. On top of Putin's invasion into Ukraine, that caused problems also. And so we have inflation. And so folks are trying to figure out what, and how the best way to get out of that inflation. And we passed recently the Inflation Reduction Act, which we think addresses some of that. Another reason why our democratic societies need to stick together. So it's going to be a race, and it's about turnout. I think it's going to be a very close race. I believe, that the Democrats will hold on, but we'll see on Tuesday.